everybody, I'm Jammer, and welcome back to yet another Animal Crossing New Horizons video. I know, so soon. Well, it just so happens that Nintendo decided to post two brand new trailers for Animal Crossing New Horizons literally minutes after I posted my last video. Yeah, that sounds about right. There isn't a whole lot of footage released. However, there are some minor things worth noting that we have not seen before in any of the direct footage or anything on the Animal Crossing website so far. But if you're looking for more in-depth coverage and analysis of the direct, I posted two videos just recently, so be sure to check those out. And if you like Animal Crossing New Horizons, perhaps consider subscribing. Plan on posting tons of Animal Crossing New Horizons content throughout the rest of the month up to release, and of course, tons when the game is out as well. Subscribing is free, and you can always change your mind later, so why not give it a click? With that out of the way, without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with this first trailer. The first scene we're presented with is a starter campsite on the beach, which was of course previously announced that you can build your home on the beach, whether it is a tent or you upgrade it to a full home. This is really no news here, but I guess to kind of extend off that idea that not only can player homes be on the beach, but it's definitely safe to assume that villagers in your town, as well as potentially maybe shops, you can build on the beach as well. As the trailer progressed, it kind of just shows the villager at her little campsite, doing a little bit of crafting, all stuff of course we've seen before. The next scene, we see her hopping over a river using the vaulting pole. The first thing to mention right off the bat is how dynamic the camera is. It is at a much lower angle than typically we've seen in all the gameplay, but beyond that, it actually stays stationary to the ground as the villager comes towards the camera. This was probably just done using development tools for the trailer, but perhaps some sort of similar feature could be emulated using the photo mode. We've already seen so far that you can move the camera around a lot using the photo mode, but we've yet to see if you're able to actually fully control your character during such and keep the camera stationary. The more interesting thing to actually point out is in the background. If you look at the elevated area right above the river, you'll actually notice something interesting. There's a small sliver of another elevation. And if we move a little bit further into the trailer when the player pulls out their ladder, we actually see them go up said elevation, and what do you know? And there's an elevated area on top of an elevated area. Basically, mountains confirmed. Ever since the announcement of the island designer and being able to customize the terrain in Animal Crossing New Horizons, I always did question and wonder what was the height limit. I kind of just assumed it would be just 2 levels of elevation because that's really all we've ever seen in Animal Crossing past. But right here is our first look at the fact that yes, you can have 3 levels of elevation, the ground floor, a second level, and a top level. Could there be even more elevations beyond this? You can tower all the way up to the sky? Probably not. The reason I probably think that the elevation caps off at these only 2 layers above the base layer is if you look at the maps we've seen so far throughout the direct footage. There's only been 3 colors of grass apparent: the dark green, a medium green, and a lighter green. And from what we can tell, that is an indication of the layers of elevation in each of these maps. And of the examples we've seen no more than just these 3 colors of green, which is probably an indication that these are probably the 3 levels of elevation that we'll be working with. So it's definitely safe to assume that this is as high as you're gonna go. Regardless, it's still super cool, the fact that you can literally build mountains in your Animal Crossing town. If you wanted, you could put your house at the top, have 2 waterfalls coming off to a little area, and then more waterfalls coming down to a little pool at the bottom. It's gonna be insane to having this extra layer of customization to your town's terrain. Because I'm sure as long as you have enough space on these elevated areas, you'll definitely be able to place buildings, shops, and villagers' homes. So then you can really play with the elevation of each of the houses and the terrain, and it's gonna look awesome. Moving on from that, we see the player character dig up a fossil, which the only thing to mention here is, wow, the fossils look so gorgeous in this game. Like, what a glow up from the original on GameCube. We then see the player crafting at a different campsite this time around. In the back, you'll actually see the shovel display like we talked about in the last video. Not too much noteworthy otherwise. In the next scene, we see the player watering some flowers. And again, like I mentioned before, this is another very dynamic camera shot. We then see the villager sneak up and catching a little hermit crab. Our first look at this collectible returning. It always was strange to me that hermit crabs were always considered a bug in the encyclopedia, but I guess it's not a fish either, so what are you gonna do? It's cute to see his return here in this clip. But speaking of cute, look at this scene with the snail. Oh my gosh, it just melts my heart. You know what? Mandatory. I am putting town ordinance in my town. It is mandatory that all residents of my island must wave to every snail they pass by. This is seriously like the cutest little detail. I love it. The next scene shows the villager catching a red snapper, actually one of my personal favorite fish in Animal Crossing. And you'd think there really isn't much noteworthy here because we have seen the red snapper already in other gameplay clips so far. But if you'll take a quick notice, what's behind the player character is a little bait bag with a fish icon on it. And that's exactly what it probably is. We've already seen in other trailers, like in E3 and whatnot, we've seen villagers throw little sparkles or fish flakes or something into the water. And we always kind of assumed it was some sort of bait to increase something in relation to fishing. And right here, we can clearly see what the item itself actually looks like. And there it is, the bait bag on the beach itself. This item is probably considered in the same category as stuff like medicine, just something you can buy at Nook's Cranny. We'll talk a little bit more about the bait bag in a bit. But the big highlight of this trailer is, of course, the villager actually playing the ocarina. The sneaky one we saw in the direct during the DIY crafting scene. We actually see the villager here playing the ocarina. And there's a couple of things to first break down in this scene. First off, in the background, you can see a very slight northern light effect, which is of course very beautiful. And of course, the other obvious thing in the background is of course the shooting star. I don't know if it necessarily has anything to do with Ocarina itself. I don't think playing the ocarina caused the shooting star to happen. I think they just set it up for the trailer to have a cool shot. But if you listen very carefully, you can actually hear the sparkling sound effect of the shooting star going across the screen. But speaking of sound effects, you can actually hear the music notes coming out of the ocarina. You listen very carefully, you can hear just 2 notes of whatever song they're probably about to play. But what we can tell in this gameplay clips is the first 2 notes of what the villager is playing on its ocarina. And it quite clearly is the main theme of Animal Crossing New Horizons. It'll be that main jingle that we all know and love right at the beginning, even the one I used for the intro in this video. And that's about everything else for the rest of the trailer. One thing to mention right at the end, we see the villager crafting, and she does in fact actually craft the toolbox we talked about previously. But let's move on over to the other trailer. Now this one starts off with a lot of environment shots, again showing off that dynamic camera we talked about previously. That is probably just for the trailer, but who knows, it could be for the camera mode as well. We first see a shot in spring with tiger butterflies as well as yellow and white common butterflies dancing in the background. The next shot is on the beach, and again we see our little friend the hermit crab making his way across the sand. The following clip is in fall. We see a pair of red dragonflies, but the cool thing to note is the bagworm, an insect that was previously in other Animal Crossing games, pokes its way out from the tree leaves. You can hear this little like springy sound effect alongside it poking. It's so weird looking, it really is. We see a quick shot of the sky at the beach, showing off the textures for the new clouds, which by the way look phenomenal. They're no longer just 2D textures, and we've already seen of course clouds in plenty of other footage before, but I just wanted to point out how amazing these clouds look. In addition to that, it again shows the islands off in the distance that I did talk about previously. It could be just placeholders to be like, hey, you're not the only island in the world, or they could be places you actually could explore. One of them could be Harvey's Island, one could be one of the islands you visit on a dodo expedition, but realistically it's probably just placeholder islands, just something to give some life to the background. In the next scene, we see a stag on a pine tree, and we've seen this stag a couple of times before throughout the direct. It might be a new one, but I think it might be the horned dynastad. I can't tell specifically, but here is where the trailer gets interesting. Right here on the beach shot along the rocks, we actually see a collection of little, shrimp? Crawdad? I don't even know what they actually are. And what's very cute is as the tide hits against the rock, they actually do a little animation and scurry a little bit, as in like in fear of getting washed away in the tide. Whatever these are probably collected just like the hermit crab with a bug net. But what these little guys did make me think of was the bait bag. Now, I don't know if necessarily it would be a thing, but if the bait bag is something that needs to be crafted, I mean, these guys would be perfect for bait, all things considered. The next shot, we see a set of owls during the night. And wow, do they look so adorable and fuzzy. Now, don't be mistaken. These aren't new characters or anything like that for New Horizons or anything. These are, in fact, actually the owls that go on top of the message board. In previous Animal Crossing games, whenever a new message was on the message board, you'll see little yellow birds dancing around it, chirping to kind of indicate to the player, hey, there's a new message on the message board. Be sure to check it out. But at night, the yellow birds go to sleep. But if there's still a new message on the message board the player has not read, In their place will be a set of owls, and this has been in many previous games before. So the next set of shots show the Dodo airplane and what looks to be first arrival of the player on the island. We first see the shadow and silhouette of the plane going over the deserted island, as well as the plane going across and in front of the sun. Maybe this could be the cutscene at the beginning of the game after you talk to Timmy and Tommy when purchasing your deserted island package getaway. It'll then maybe play this cutscene when you first arrive at the village. You'll fly over the town a little bit, it'll show the plane going across the sun, and then of course you'll arrive at the dock. I'm more inclined to believe that these two shots could be something we could see in game, rather than the next two shots we see are very clearly pre-rendered cutscenes. These are quite clearly animations created for the trailer to kind of tell the story of the player first arriving on this island. And so that is everything I found in these two short trailers. Like I said, not a ton of groundbreaking stuff. There's a lot of interesting little details worth mentioning. I mean, the 2 layers of elevation, the ocarina being played, the cutscene that could potentially be the intro of the game are all pretty big things we've yet to see before, so it's cool to see them here in these little snippet trailers. So I'm curious, with this new knowledge of the second layer of elevation and all the stuff we just barely talked about, what inspirations has it brought you? What kind of ideas has it inspired you to put into your town when the game fully releases on March 20th? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big awesome like. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe for tons more on Animal Crossing New Horizons. I plan to do more than just analyze trailers, but I mean, I can barely keep up with the fact that Nintendo keeps putting out all these new channels for Animal Crossing. But I get this at the same time, I can't complain, because I mean, new Animal Crossing news, I mean, I'll keep eating that stuff up all day. Before I end off, I just want to say thank you guys again so much for the incredible amount of support on all the Animal Crossing content I've been making. It's really, truly meant the world to me. And like every morning I wake up and see all the amazing comments you guys have been leaving on the videos. It's like, it's nearly bringing me to tears. It's an absolutely surreal thing to have happening because I've always wanted to be able to make Animal Crossing content on YouTube. So I'm so happy to have you all along with this journey, and I cannot wait for the memories we will make when the game releases and all the cool things we'll be able to make in the game together. So thanks again everyone for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya!